Good evening. About 190 Hong Kong tourists on 5 package tours were stranded in Vietnam after the owner of the tour agent there went missing. The groups will receive a full refund and are all set to be on their way home after the government intervened. Travel Industry Council Executive Director Joseph Tung and Guangdong Travel's Director Cho Wing Hong came out this evening to brief reporters on the 190 Hong Kong tourists who were left stranded in Vietnam. Chow said each tourist will receive a full refund of $2,200, and they've already made the arrangements for all 5 tours to head back home. Around 190 people joined 5 separate Vietnam tours organized by Guangdong Travel for the Lunar New Year holidays. They paid $2,200 each for a packed 6-day itinerary that included stops in Guangxi, Hanoi, and picturesque Ha Long Bay. The tours set off on Friday and Saturday. Chow said 4 of the 5 groups have just arrived in Vietnam, but the tour guide and bus that were supposed to meet them never showed up. Guangdong Travel tried to contact the Vietnam agency responsible, but couldn't get hold of the owner. Chow said he can't confirm claims that the agency in Vietnam had gone out of business. The tourists have been stuck in their hotels and the rest of their tour has been cancelled. Chow added that the 2 tours that were stranded in Hanoi are already on their way back to China, while the other 2 tours in Ha Long Bay will head to the mainland tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, one of the 5 tours has already wrapped up its visit to Vietnam and was supposed to return to mainland before noon. But the tourists were denied entry as the Vietnam agency never gave them the right travel documents. The tourists were stuck at the border for 3 hours until Hong Kong's immigration department was notified and intervened. They managed to get across the border late this afternoon and are expected to return to Hong Kong tomorrow. The Travel Industry Council said it was gravely concerned about this case, but believes it's an isolated incident. Tung said he doesn't think there are any other Hong Kong agencies that hire the same agency in Vietnam. Guangdong Travel said it has already switched to other agents for future Vietnam package tours. There's confusion tonight about why the hospital authority waited 2 weeks to announce the death of a woman who was given a heart with the wrong blood type last year. Meanwhile, there was a rare short wait for accident and emergency services at public hospitals, as patients appear to have been scared away by warnings about long queues. Raymond Young reports.
After repeated warnings from the government about the potential for long queues at accident and emergency departments at public hospitals, people may have been too scared to even seek medical attention today. Around 20 patients were lining up at Prince of Wales Hospital in Sha Tin this afternoon, with most having to wait for 3 hours only, half the time people had to wait yesterday. There was a similar scene at United Christian Hospital in Kwun Tong, with most happy to wait for a few hours until they were treated. So where have all the people gone? The answer is private clinics. At this center in Cheung Kwan O, the queue was over 2 hours long at its peak. Even though we have a ticket, we still have to sit here so we don't miss our turn, said this patient. The rush for private healthcare comes after Health Chief Ko Wing-man warned yesterday that public hospitals may be overrun, so people should go private instead. Former Medical Association President Gabriel Choi expects another surge of patients later this week, as many felt they can simply let their illnesses die down during the holiday. Choi urged people who are not seriously ill to avoid visiting A&E departments at public hospitals, which have been under immense pressure due to a manpower shortage. Separately, the hospital authority is under fire for delaying its announcement of the death of a patient who survived a serious medical blunder last year. The 59-year-old woman was left fighting for her life last May after receiving a heart of the wrong blood type at Queen Mary Hospital. She later recovered but was admitted to hospital again in November with breathing difficulties. She eventually died on the 23rd of last month from a lung infection. The hospital authority did not explain why the announcement was made nearly 2 weeks after the patient died, only saying the case has been passed on to the coroner. Raymond Yang, ATV News.
Chief Secretary Carrie Lam reminded Hong Kongers today that universal suffrage must be achieved under the Basic Law. Lam made the comments after enjoying some Lunar New Year's festivities in Sai Kung. Raymond Yang reports.
It's the last day of the long weekend for Hong Kongers, but the festive atmosphere was still in the air. Hundreds of locals and tourists made their way to Sai-Kung this morning to attend more Lunar New Year celebrations. The highlight was a lion dance, which brought the festivities to a spectacular climax. Lanterns are usually hung up as decorations. With some creativity, they can be used as props in a lively parade as well. And the celebrations wouldn't be complete without Fuk Luk Sao, the three Chinese gods of fortune, prosperity and longevity. I came here just to watch the lion dances, said this elderly woman, while this girl said the show was amazing. Even tourists were having a good time.
I think it's fantastic. It's wonderful. I love the colors and the noise. I love the noise.
In the audience this morning was Chief Secretary Carrie Lam, who took the opportunity to call for a consensus on the ongoing issue of political reform. We should maintain dialogue and eliminate differences of opinion so we can elect the chief executive by means of universal suffrage in 2017, Lam said in a speech. She went on to say she is aware that many district councillors believe that the election must stick to the basic law and the decisions of the National People's Congress Standing Committee. That will surely be read by the Pan-Democrats as a sign that Lam, one of three ministers in charge of a consultation exercise on electoral reform, is merely Beijing's mouthpiece and won't genuinely listen to the public's views. Another point man on the issue, Justice Chief Rimsky-Yun, effectively ruled out the idea of civil nomination in a newspaper column last month, claiming that it has no legal basis. The vague concept involves ordinary people picking the next chief executive candidates, although there doesn't seem to be an agreed way of doing that among pro-democracy groups. Nevertheless, Yun's comment drew a sharp response from Civic Party chairwoman Audrey Yu today. She accused the government of only picking clauses from the basic law that suit them, while omitting others which do not support their stance. The former legislator said while Article 45 of the Basic Law, which gives the nomination committee sole authority to name candidates, is one of the deciding factors, other clauses in the mini-constitution also guarantee Hong Kongers the right to nominate and stand in the election, and those terms should not be overlooked. She admitted that the Democrats have had disagreements over the so-called three-pronged approach, which suggests allowing voters, parties and the nomination committee to choose candidates together, an idea Beijing has already shot down. But the barrister said it's normal to have differences of opinion and hoped everyone can reach a compromise. Raymond Yang, ATV News.
U.S. President Barack Obama is expected to visit Asia this April, and bickering neighbors Japan and South Korea could be on his itinerary. Meanwhile, a top Chinese official says Beijing's relationship with Tokyo is at its worst ever. Britton Clennet reports.
Speaking at the Munich Security Conference, Mainland Foreign Affairs Committee Chairwoman Fu Ying spoke openly about Beijing's soured ties with Tokyo, and she admitted it, things are bad.
Our relationship is probably at its worst, and many people are worried. I have lots of friends in Japan, I have friends in China who have a relationship in Japan, and the bilateral relations, the cooperation is suffering a lot.
While relations between the two nations were already strained by a row over the disputed Diaoyu Islands, a bitter war of words broke out after Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visited a controversial war shrine. Meanwhile, the White House has announced that US President Barack Obama is planning a trip to Asia this April, and it's likely the country's biggest ally in the region, Japan, will be on the list. And both those issues are expected to be fairly high on the agenda. While a full itinerary hasn't been released, unconfirmed reports indicate that he's cut his Japanese trip short to pay South Korea a visit as well. The Philippines and Malaysia are also rumoured to be on Obama's travel plans, fueling speculation that his trip is an attempt to pacify or arbitrate the growing and complex tensions in the region. Recently, the US strategy to deal with the region's problems has been to send more military here to counter the perceived threat from China.
Hollywood is mourning the death of Academy Award-winning actor Philip Seymour Hoffman from an apparent drug overdose at his home in New York. The actor, who won an Oscar for his portrayal of writer Truman Capote, has struggled in the past with drugs. Arthur Urquiola reports.
Police and medical examiners were outside the apartment in New York's West Village of Philip Seymour Hoffman. The 46-year-old actor's body was taken from the scene on a stretcher. After responding to a 911 call, officers found Hoffman on the bathroom floor of the apartment. He was unresponsive and certified dead at the scene. Police said investigations were ongoing, but suspect he died from a drug overdose. A syringe was found in the actor's arm, and 2 small plastic bags were recovered from the flat. They were said to contain a substance believed to be heroin. Hoffman's showreel was filled with interesting and unconventional characters, often with a dark side.
I'd only just handed them the final scene when the bellhop told me I had a phone call. And it was my stepfather, Joe Capote, calling to say that my mother had died.
He won an Academy Award in 2005 for the film Capote, in which he played the title role of writer Truman Capote.
I didn't really know what it was fascinating about his life that I would, be interested in. And so when I read the script, I started to see what it was, and then I read the biography and became semi-obsessed, with the whole idea of the story. And that's really, how I keyed in.
Are you afraid that we might discover that our past has been reshapen?
Last year, he was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in The Master, in which he played a character based on Scientology cult leader L. Ron Hubbard.
Did you want to discuss the pageant? Is that why I'm here? Is this what you wanted to discuss?
He was nominated for the same award in 2009 for Doubt and Charlie Wilson's War in 2008. Besides films, the actor was equally at home on Broadway and was nominated for 2 Tony Awards.
Hey, Reed. Hey, Scotty J, how are ya? You know.
Born in upstate New York, Hoffman had played more than a dozen roles before his appearance in 1997's Boogie Nights, when studios started taking notice of his unique on-screen talents. His last appearance was in the latest installment of the popular Hunger Games movies Catching Fire. Just last month, he was promoting his latest film, A Most Wanted Man. In the spy thriller, Hoffman plays a German agent driven by previous failures to capture terrorists by any means necessary.
I connected with a lot of it. I think it'd be hard for anyone not to kind of connect with the loneliness of him. He's pretty lonely. He's very driven, obsessive guy. There's not unforgiving, himself in a lot of ways, and a lot of traits that I think a lot of people carry in one grade or another.
There was shock at the news of Hoffman's death and praise for the actor by some of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Terrible, terrible. I'm speechless. I'm just